What's going on, people? How you doing? TK Pryor coming at you, and today I just want to talk to you about the truth. And the truth is different for every person that defines their message, because people have different levels of understanding, people have different levels of reality. So the space in which most people exist in is pretty much floating in their own little imaginary world. You know, and some people's world is more realistic than others, but you know, your individual mind defines your space. So I find it interesting that a lot of people enjoy living in the fantasy world of untruth, or a fantasy world of uniqueness that's isolated to just them. Because when you talk about solutions and you present action and reaction, or you present problems to people, most people are very adept at presenting a problem. You know, they used to say, if you're going to present a problem, also present a solution. So a lot of people are very skilled at focusing on a problem and ignoring the solution. So that carries over to leadership positions, because as you begin to move into certain critical roles, now you're pointing out problems and you don't care about solutions. Because of the isolated power that comes with your position, you're just focusing on the power and gaining more power, or most likely more money. So people are really full of shit, and they don't really present solutions when they're very skilled at pointing out problems. And I'm beginning to notice that more and more, is that most people are full of shit. They're fucking liars, and they don't want to do anything other than promote their own fantasies. Whatever that fantasy is, they're gonna just fucking concentrate on that. They're not gonna present a solution to a problem. They're just gonna make themselves look good and talk in a way in which grandstanding becomes a part of their career. You know, politicians, actors, you know, you just want to look good. You don't want to fix anything. Because when we hone this back, because I presented a concept to you. Now, if you hone that concept back and you apply it to finances, as I always talk about, your financial problems are easy to see, very easy to complain about. But solutions and actually doing something to get off your ass, that's a whole nother story. That's not something you want to have a conversation about. That's not something that people even want to look at. So we get very good at talking about how much we don't have. We don't understand the fractional reserve banking system, even though we participated or are, you know, very much affected and relegated to small boxes because of it. But we don't understand how the banking system works, how our money is generated out of nothing, how credit is pretty much a lie that enslaves us, and we don't care. You know, you just want access. You want access, and you want to beat engineered scarcity. Even if you are competent enough to realize that scarcity is engineered, because the matrix lies to you and it tells you, oh my God, everything is freaking Mayberry. And there's no reason for you to say anything other than the fact that this is Mayberry. Everybody in Mayberry has a fair and equal chance. And this democracy gives you the opportunity to bootstrap. And you just have to be capable. And I find that a lot of people are not capable. I find that a lot of people really just get into excuses and not really getting into the heart of an economic solution that could change their plateau or enhance their plateau so that it's more livable, you know, and that should be your goal. Your goal should be to make your environment more livable, make your space more enjoyable, and give your family more access. But I don't see people doing that. And when we talk about solutions, when we talk about economic solutions within communities, you know, you have to find a way for you to empower yourself, you know, and strengthen your access to paper money, right? Or to currency, period. But if you think about that, think about what you're doing right now for access. Do you go to work at McDonald's? Do you slave 8 hours a day at a construction site, or 14 hours a day? You know, whatever you do for access is tied to trading labor, trading your skill set for, or I should say trading your time for wages, whatever you do. And for some reason, that's the only way that people think about access. No one ever thinks about access outside of that. If I talk about what do you do to make money? You say, well, I have a job. Okay, job is only 1 out of 7 ways to generate income. Why don't you look at the other 6 in terms of solutions so that you can increase your quality of life? And people are like, yeah, no, I just want a job. And then I just want to be lazy at my job so I don't have to do much. One thing I notice right now is my job is amping up where you have to output more. But I realized that, okay, my primary goal is to make my money from work, get a job. So I employ my income outside of work. So working more at work just means it's part of the sacrifice. It's part of the non-laziness it takes to get to your end goal. And I think a lot of people just want stuff handed to them. They don't want to work. You know, I was watching a movie based on a true story, and I forgot what it was called, but Mark Wahlberg was in it along with The Rock and this other guy. And basically, they steal and take from other people as opposed to working for the same thing. So they targeted a super rich person in Florida and basically tortured and beat him and took what he had, right? And then in the end, of course, they went to jail and got caught. But I find that so disgusting, and I also find that very represented. I think this true story happened in the 90s, but I find that very much a representation of people as a whole. A lot of lazy bastards rather torture you, beat you, and take what you have instead of working for whatever it takes to make their goals and dreams a reality. So solutions is what I'm talking about in this video, and what I'm trying to present to you is that a lot of people dismiss things that can help them to advance further. You know, I have a lot of conversations about the way the economic world is changing and the way in which everything that we know has shifted to a more digital economy. And people don't want to accept that. You know, every time something new comes on or comes around, people run from it and mentally shut their mind off. And, you know, the negativity comes out in terms of, I'm not willing to accept change, and I'm going to make excuses for the environment that's changing around me, as opposed to embracing new technology, figuring out how to get ahead of the curve instead of being hit by it. And then, of course, position yourself, you know, economically position yourself. So realistically, people are trained to fail, and people are lazy inherently, and the shortest path is always to take it from someone else, as opposed to the bootstrap mentality or the entrepreneurial spirit. Because realistically, a lot of the non-adoption, when you talk about solutions, we start getting into tangible assets. We start getting into ways to make leverage and ways to make your money work smart for you. When we talk about solutions and along those areas, we get into assets like gold, silver, and Bitcoin. And people immediately shut their mind down as soon as I transition the conversation there. That's why I gave you the preface that I gave you, because people shut their mind off and they say, well, you know, I want paper. So you're shooting yourself in the foot in terms of advancement of technology, in terms of what can help you position ahead of the curve financially. Anything that could progress you, you're like, nope. And you stick to what you know. And if what you know doesn't work, then you have no right to complain. We know that paper currency doesn't work. We know that the inflation is going to continue its rise, so that the purchase power of the paper that you have in your pocket is going to continue to diminish. So we know that that is a dying ship. And people are not willing to accept that reality and do something different to circumvent the already known destination. We know where paper money is going. All fiat currency returns to its intrinsic value. So we understand what's going to happen, but we are not willing to sacrifice and just make some smart economic decisions today to create a better tomorrow. So when I talk about and transition the conversation to solutions like gold, silver, and Bitcoin, immediately people get defensive and shut their mind off. And you are not willing to do what the fuck it takes to advance your financial future, because if you do buy gold, if you do buy silver, if you do convert paper money to other forms of higher currency, then you are taking a step away from the inflationary nature of the dollar. You're actually grabbing the reins that is built into fiat and pulling it back to yourself. So now you're going to say, I'm going to manage my own household. I'm going to take control of my financial destiny by not relying on promissory notes from the government, but converting to private issue bullion through gold and silver, and private controlled coins through items like blockchain, where you own your ledger and you only have access to that ledger. Whereas in fractional reserve banking, the part that people don't understand is that the bank controls the ledger and you're just a bearer. You know, you don't actually own the policy, you're just a bearer. So we have to transition. The world economically is transitioning and has transitioned. And the thing is that people refuse to advance with the advancement of our economic world. So I always say that you dismissing something doesn't make it go away. Ignoring the elephant in the room doesn't improve your financial situation. You have to make the individual choice to say, I'm going to get gold, I'm going to get silver, I'm going to get Bitcoin. And then you're going to fare. You're going to fare more than the people who, the average bank account in paper currency that you consider God gives you, what, 1% per annum on that $10,000 that you saved. What type of Stockholm syndrome accepts that level of slavery when that economically makes 0 cents? So if you save $10,000 every year in Bitcoin, as opposed to getting 1% per annum, now you're looking at probably 1% every day, or maybe 1% every month, or maybe 1% every few minutes, because the fluctuation and valuation in Bitcoin is on a year-by-year basis higher than what you can get in a traditional fiat banking situation. So compare the two. Stop with the bullshit and the excuses, and save $10,000 in the bank and then save $10,000 in Bitcoin, and compare the two side by side, and I guarantee you that you'll fare better by saving $10,000 in Bitcoin in spite of the fluctuations, because people are price fixed and they're like, oh, it's up and down. You know, you're like a 2-year-old baby with a pacifier in his mouth. Hey, the price, the price, the price. When year by year, Bitcoin has fared better than any other currency in the world for the past 7 years running. So do the math and save $10,000 in the bank, save $10,000 in Bitcoin in 1 year, and see which one fares better. And then you'll prove it to yourself that the math in Bitcoin fares better per annum. Over the long term, you're going to fare better if you convert to Bitcoin, if you have some gold and you have some silver. And that's all I'm going to say about solutions, because we know the problems of the dollar. It's easy to point that out. We don't see people implementing the solutions for the 21st century. Bootstrapping requires you to make a decision to convert money out of the dollar into other forms of currency like gold, like silver, like Bitcoin. If you choose to do that, you're going to be okay. If you don't choose to do that, then shut the fuck up, stop complaining, and become that poverty slave that you're meant to be within fractional reserve banking or any paper currency for that matter, because paper currency was never designed to empower you. It was designed to enslave you. The fractional reserve banking system itself is a system of indentured servitude. So don't expect an animal not to be an animal. Don't expect a tiger not to be a tiger. Know that you're dealing with a tiger and act accordingly.